In this video, I'm going to show you how to make an emergency compass out of a Swiss Army knife. I'll be using a Rambler, one of their 58mm series, their little ones for the keychain. What I'm going to show you will work with several different models, not all of them. I'll try and provide a list in the notes of the models that I know it'll work with. Basically, you want to have this tool called a combination tool. It has a cap lifter, a screwdriver tip, Phillips head screwdriver, and a wire bending notch. Anyway, the reason this works is because they magnetize the tip. Here's my little survival kit for my keychain that I showed in another video, and it has a compass in it. And you'll notice that as I hold the screwdriver tip to it, it affects the compass. At least I hope you can see that in the video. You can actually check to see that the tip is magnetized by making sure it'll lift up the split ring attachment. So what you can do is take off the split ring attachment, and as long as this will pick it up, you know you still have a good magnetized tip. Sometimes these become demagnetized from heat. In fact, if you don't like it magnetized, you can erase it by running a lighter under it for a little bit. Or severe shock and vibration can also make a magnet lose its magnetism. Sometimes just from age, too. So if you have one of these that's decades old, it may not be magnetized anymore. Anyway, make sure it still is magnetized by making sure it'll pick up the split ring that you have right there. That shows you've got a good one that's going to work. There are other Swiss Army knives that come with magnetized tips. For instance, this fish scaler found on this, I guess this is a Swiss Champ. It works. However, not all fish scalers seem to be magnetized. I don't know if this one has lost its magnetism, but I noticed that on this other knife I have, look, nothing. So for some reason, sometimes fish scalers are magnetized, sometimes they aren't. Anyway, I'm going to show you how to make this compass out of this little guy, the Rambler. So just like in the Boy Scouts, they tell you to take the magnet, float it on something, and it'll aim north. And indeed, that's what we're going to do. You might wonder, what are we going to float it on? Well, maybe you could find a big leaf, maybe a rain puddle to float it in. Maybe you have some duct tape on your little Altoids tin, like I show what I call a squash clamp, and you could make a little flotation device like this little canoe I've fabricated, just something that's going to float the knife in water. Or you could, for instance, take maybe a coffee cup, cut the bottom out of it, or this, which is a guacamole cup. I found some plastic lids in my recycling bin. In fact, that's what I plan on using. I want to use this, it's a peanut butter jar lid. And then in terms of what you're going to float it inside, you could make a little bowl, maybe find a wooden tree trunk stump, make a bowl out of plastic filling a hat or something. That is indeed north, so took just a tad over a minute to get a good stable reading. Use the razor knife on my keychain, my Mac 2 razor knife. It's locked from deployment while it's on my keychain, but then when I take off this quick release attachment, now opens up into a razor knife. I'm going to cut the bottom of this. And then when you're done, you tap the knife. That's why they call these tap knives. This model is also a glow fob for my keychain. This side glows in the dark. And this side is my supermarket courtesy pass. What do they call those? Loyalty cards.
Welcome. Please scan your first item. Click card scan.
And then when I'm done using the knife, you connect it to the keychain, and now it's locked from deployment. These are pretty cool. I really recommend these. Mac 2 razor knife. Look it up on my channel. So here's a little bowl. You could also use this in an emergency just as a food bowl to, you know, eat your cereal. Remember, north's roughly that way, so let's aim it over here. Let's see what happens. So this was a fail. It kept catching on the side. It needs more drift area, so that may not work out too good. There's just a plate. So for the secondary method, which is actually a bit more cool than the floating in water method, we're going to need paracord. So you need a Swiss Army knife and some paracord. Could be, for instance, my 1 minute to construct bracelet, which I can deploy into paracord in about 5 seconds. Or it could be, for instance, some paracord from the outside of your tin. I call this a parafob wrap. I have a video about that. Or it could be maybe some paracord from a knife lanyard. I also call these parafobs. A little pull mechanism like on this one, or a longer one like on this. Little ones like this can deploy in only 1 second. So with paracord, you need to cut off the fused end. You could use, for instance, my Mac 2 razor knife. And you need to get to these little inner fibers. There are usually 7 of them, although some brands use 8. I think there might even be some that use 9. But these inner strands, I have some cut here, for instance. One of them will be color-coded. This tells them what factory made that particular military-grade paracord. So if the parachute fails, because the cord breaks, they know what factory to blame. So there are actual charts on the web where the color coding will tell you what factory made that cord. Now here's the thing, you can see this on camera, so I'm going to show you with this, but what you need to do is use one of these single inner strands. They're so small I can barely see them with my eye, and I'm pretty darn sure the camera can't see them at all. Maybe with a magnifying glass, let's see. This is incredibly difficult to photograph, but I'm thinking the black background will help. Here's the color-coded strand. I'm hoping that's going to be easier to see. What you do is you untwist the bundles. See how I'm untwisting them? So there's the green one and the 2 whites. Hold it and then untwist it. You can sort of pull one of them away from the pack. there we go. There's one of the three. 3 means you have real deal military grade paracord. Now I have no idea if you're going to be able to see these individual strands. I can barely see them. But instead of pulling one away from the pack to the side, it seems the best way to do this, to keep it from getting tangled, is to pull it out longitudinally. So let me see if I can find an individual one. I think I have a single one right here. Can you see it? So I grab onto that, and now I pull it longitudinally. You try and splay the end. You pull it. I think I got 2 here. See the 2 I'm pulling out? You should try to avoid knots as much as possible. Instead, try wrapping around the object that you want to attach to and then tape it down. That's your best way to use this stuff. So what you do is, with one of those inner strands, but I'm going to take the full thickness one just so you can see it more easily, roughly where the pivot point is on the scissors, you grab onto the fiber by pushing in the nail file screwdriver tip, and then you balance it. And if it doesn't seem perfectly balanced, you can use these as sort of counterweights, counterbalances, and you can push them in or pull them out. I just cut my fingernails, so it's going to be a little hard to do that. But you use those to try and figure out what makes it most level. And then you hang it, and it spins freely. Now the big thick cords like this do not spin freely. Unfortunately, they have a torsional problem that's going to not make this work very well. You might be able to use a thread. I haven't tried that. But very thin cords should work, and I've tried it with the inner element of this, and that did work. I'll show you the video I shot with my iPhone yesterday. So here's another use for the Mac razor knife. Screwdriver. I took the razor blade out of it.